Hey! Yeah, no, can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Hi, well, how you doing today? Excellent. Well, first, thank you for taking the time out of your day to talk to me. I won't try to take up too much of your time, but basically, I'm taking a trip to Georgia in a few weeks, and I'd kind of like to fit in with the locals more, not stick out so much. So I was kind of just hoping you could maybe give me some phrases to use so I could blend in better. Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm ready whenever you are.
Well, I declare.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I've heard that one before. That's a good one.
You come across, I come across.
Oh, no, I'm not familiar with that one. No, I'll have to look that up. No, cool. No, this is really good stuff here. Any others?
We're gonna have us a hella.
Oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, no, I'm learning a lot here. Keep them coming.
They bite your own titties.
I think I might have misheard you there. What was that last one?
Hot doggies.
Oh, yeah, no, I thought you had said something else. No, that's one I've never heard of before either.
I mean, you're gonna be decent again.
What was that?
You're gonna do what I say.
Uh, um, I might sound kind of crazy here, but I feel like you're actually saying that to me.
You're gonna be my girl. You're gonna be decent. You hear me?
All right, yeah, no, I think I got enough. Okay, thanks, bye. What in the hell was that about? Now who's calling? Oh, shit. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to VHS on Tape. So, as some of you may or may not know, my channel is what's known as small, or petite if you want to sound fancy, but apparently it's gotten big enough for me to get my first troll. Yeah, it's actually kind of exciting, kind of flattering, really. I mean, they left comments on two different videos, basically saying the same thing, except one is a little more specific. Well, let's take a look here. Do I do porn? No, I wish, right? Have I ever done gay midget porn? Well, I don't exactly fit the profile, although I have to imagine that the pay would be pretty good for that specific niche. Unless it's like a butcher and they charge per pound. But I'm not sure what they mean by I look like a fake Ben Affleck. Now, there's definitely worse people to look like than Batman, but I'd be the first to say I don't see it. Plus, do they mean I look like a Ben Affleck impersonator, or that I think I look like Ben Affleck? Or that I'm some sort of Ben Affleck look-like robot? I, that's just ridiculous. Why would there even be such a thing? I mean, the idea is just so... Sorry, I powered down. I mean, took a nap. Yes, I took a nap like a human man. Alright, well, today we're going to take a look at a different kind of horror movie, Poor Pretty Eddie. It's definitely grindhouse for sure, but it's more of a psychological scare than anything. Probably even more so if you're a woman, so it might really help if we all try to get into the mindset of a woman right now. Okay, alright, shopping, makeup, yep, that's a good one. Oh yeah, okay, pillow fights and sleepovers in our underwear. Alright, okay, yeah, I think we're all there. Poor Pretty Eddie came out on April 16th, 1975, and technically runs for 1 hour and 32 minutes, but the version I reviewed is only an hour and 25 minutes long. But from what I can find, we're just missing out on some backstory. It was directed by David Worth and Richard Robinson. Worth also directed Warrior of the Lost World and Kickboxer, while Robinson also directed To Hell You Preach and Adultery for Fun and Profit. The tagline for the movie is, he does all the things you like to forget. Well, I'm pretty sure that applies to a lot of people's exes too. The movie is about a jazz singer's car breaking down, which forces her to stay at an isolated lodge in the South. Poor Pretty Eddie is what's known as a Hicksploitation film. We've all heard of sexploitation and blaxploitation films, right? Hicksploitation is a genre that exploits the stereotypes of rural Southerners. Think Mother's Day and Scum of the Earth. Or, Deliverance if you want. Well, if you're ready to take a trip down south, let's get into the movie that is Poor Pretty Eddie.
You gonna do what I say?
We start off seeing still shots of a flag. I'm not sure why they don't actually show it waving, but this opening scene is a little odd overall to me. They give us freeze-framed, double-exposed transitions, which, like I said, is just odd. Then we meet Liz Weatherly. She's played by Leslie Uggams. She was in Black Girl and Deadpool 1 and 2. She played Blind Al. Then we get some more double exposure as we switch to her driving and hear her say,
"Now I'm going to get in my car and drive until I find a nice, quiet hole to crawl into."
before we fade to nature shots, and the way it's done does actually kind of make it creepy. Then we see what appears to be a junkyard, and for me, I think it actually kind of switches from creepy to tranquil. We see Liz walking around Bertha's oasis before she hears a noise coming from a shed. Now, when she opens the door, we see an actual chicken getting its head cut off. Now, I love KFC as much as the next person, or maybe more. I kind of got a problem. But I still don't want to see what happens to the chickens before they get to me. I think this scene does help show that Liz is definitely out of her element here, so it does help the movie, but I'll let you decide if you want to watch the movie and that scene, so I won't show the chicken part here. But in the shed, we meet Keno. He's played by Ted Cassidy. He had a pretty decent career. He was in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, but he also did a lot of voiceover work too. He narrated the opening of the Incredible Hulk TV show. But most people probably know him from the role as Lurch on the original Addams Family. Liz says she needs help because her car broke down. Then we meet Eddie, played by Michael Christian. He was in Terror on the Beach and The Great Gundown. As he's washing up, Keno comes in with Liz, and the way Eddie talks to Keno, he must be in charge.
God damn it, Keno, you can keep them dogs quiet. One of these mornings you're gonna find their hides nailed to your door, you hear me?
Keno explains about her car, and pay close attention, because this is one of the few times you'll hear Liz say this.
"Now I need someone to please go up there and fix it."
So Eddie tells Keno,
Hey, boy. Go tow in the latest car. Now you get a move on, you hear?
and Keno heads out. Eddie says she came to the right place, and he asks if she would like a drink while she waits, and she says,
"No, I'm fine."
not, no thank you. They are towing your car in for you, but who needs to be polite, right? She says their sign says they rent cabins and asks if one's available. And Eddie says nobody's been in since honey season, so yes. When asking for a signature, he says,
Put your John Henry right on there.
which is a little racist, John Henry instead of John Hancock. For those of you not familiar, perhaps some of my international viewers, I just like saying that because it makes me sound like kind of a big deal. John Henry is an African-American folk hero. Henry was a steel-driving man who won in a race against a steam-powered rock-drilling machine. After he sees her name, he recognizes her, and as much as she acts like a snobbish famous person, she doesn't seem to like being recognized.
Come on, I'm very tired and I'd like my key.
Fancy,
All right, I'll
and
sign
put
it.
the
Now
Eddie
give me
on
the
it.
key
I'll tell
already.
Eddie what's...
Eddie says that he's going to give her their best cabin and carry her bags for her because he knows how to treat a lady. Then we cut to Bertha. This is her oasis. She's played by none other than Shelley Winters. Her acting career actually spanned over 5 decades and included movies like The Great Gatsby, A Place in the Sun, Pete's Dragon, and The Poseidon Adventure. We see different pictures that let us know that she used to be famous too. She sees Eddie and Liz and gets upset. Then she sits down to get ready and thinks something I think all of us at one point or another have thought.
You are an ugly bitch.
Fade to Liz's cabin, where we find out that Eddie sometimes sleeps there while he works on his music. Ah, okay, so he's into music too. Also, I'm pretty sure that means he hasn't washed the sheets either. Just saying. Cut to another animal head on the wall before seeing an irritated Bertha talking to Eddie about Liz. Bertha says she wants Liz gone, and Eddie persuades her to change her mind. Sort of. So apparently they're a couple. Then we get another double exposure transition. They definitely like doing that in this movie. Keno comes back with Liz's car and tells Bertha the radiator overheated and that he'll fix it once it cools down, and she says make it fast. As he starts to work on it, Eddie decides to have some fun, then tells him to wait on fixing the car as he yanks the hose out of Kino's hand. Then this happens. Now what I find interesting here is that Eddie was talking down to Kino earlier, and Kino acted like Eddie was above him. But here, I guess he's just reminding him that he could knock his block off if he wanted to. I'm also not sure why they threw in a shot of Liz taking a picture. She's not actually by those two photographing them, so I'm not sure why it's in there. Anyhow, Eddie proceeds to mess up the car even more before seeing Liz taking random pictures of the cabin grounds and then wandering around the woods when we get some pretty acceptable music that makes us think something bad is about to happen. But we just see that Liz isn't alone before getting our standard transition of Eddie checking himself out in the mirror. Bertha comes in and asks what's going on with the car since Kino says it's alright now. Then we see that Eddie's all gussied up when Bertha tells him he better not be trying to go after Liz. He reassures her by telling her,
Now you tell me what a woman looks like you has to worry about.
But clearly Bertha is afraid of losing Eddie. Then Sheriff Orville comes flying in, and he's played by Slim Pickens, which is a great name, by the way. He was in a lot of things, but most notable, I think, was Blazing Saddles and Dr. Strangelove. He played Major King Kong, and he rode the nuke like a cowboy. With him is his nephew, who is a little slow.
That nephew of mine ain't never been just right.
Bertha and Eddie come out, and Orville asks why Eddie is so done up, and he says it's just for dinner, which Bertha then invites Orville to. Cut to dinner, and we see that Liz has also joined them along with Kino. And Liz gives us some important information.
My family's in millinery.
And Orville tries to give her a compliment, and she gives a look like she thinks Orville is an idiot.
If they're in the feed and grain, why, chances are they're real down-to-earth folks.
Okay, so I actually had to look this one up. Millinery is someone who makes hats. Well, that sure is a $5 word to be dropping around. Look, lady, I went to college and I had to look that up. In fact, I did a poll of 100 people on the street just to see if they knew what a millinery was, and 99 ignored me and one person spit in my face. So I think it's pretty safe to say in the future, just say I come from a family of hat makers. They go on to have a profound discussion about race.
Times has changed, Eddie. Should they even call themselves black?
Before Bertha comes in and makes small talk with Liz, who continues to be very, very friendly.
Oh, Elizabeth, like the Queen of England.
Orville and Bertha bring up what a good singer Eddie is.
I'm sure.
So I'm just going to come out and say it. I don't like Liz. She hasn't been friendly to anyone since she got here, and they're helping her out. So Eddie gets up to sing, and as he's doing some dedications, Orville flips and shares this with Liz.
He don't fix cars any better than he sings.
And while Eddie is singing,
Smoke-filled bar and my guitar in my hand.
Orville decides to make Liz an offer.
Ride into town with me, why? I'll sure show you a good time.
When Eddie finishes, Orville flips again.
See what I tell you.
And when pressed, Liz says it's not her kind of music. Orville and his nephew leave and ask Eddie to walk them out, and the animosity continues between Liz and Bertha. Now, what happens next is the turning point of the movie. Well, outside, Orville fills up Eddie's ego and tells him,
Why, that gal's got eyes for you, boy.
Then Liz comes out and is the friendliest that she's been yet with anyone in the movie. Which obviously gives weight to what Orville said in Eddie's mind. Bertha comes out drunk, and Winters does a good job here of crossing over into the sad and desperate girlfriend.
Come on. Come to bed with Bertha. Come on. I'll do all the things you like.
You know, it's that thing where you feel too bad for her to take her up on her offer, and Eddie tells her it's too late. Cut to Liz coming down some stairs to Eddie laying in her bed, shirtless, and when she tells him to leave, he brings up,
What was all that carrying on at supper? Now don't act like you don't know.
She tells him to leave again, and when he refuses, she knees him in the balls. Alright, I have to explain that I don't condone what happens next or think it's okay, but the series of events and the way they shot it, it makes me laugh, and I know it's not supposed to be funny. I mean, sometimes I have a twisted sense of humor, so just so we're clear, I don't think this is funny in real life, but this isn't real life, this is a movie. Eddie socks her right in the stomach. No, I think it's funny because if you've ever been hit in the balls, this is exactly what you want to do, once the pain subsides. And it doesn't matter what it is, a baseball, a kid in gym class during dodgeball, your dog, you want to uppercut whatever it is that just hit you in the balls. And that's partly why it's so funny watching guys getting hit in the crotch, because you know just how much it hurts. He follows it up with a slap and then climbs on top of her. He starts kissing her, and I have to say, catching a knee to the groin is generally going to stop that sex drive. I mean, I guess it would just increase it if they were masochists. As he's kissing her, she starts fighting back, and we get what's probably the most memorable part of this movie. So we get a country song playing over Eddie while raping Liz. But they interlace it with scenes of Keno and some hillbillies watching some good old-fashioned dog breeding. Now, I'm sure there might be a very specific reason for doing this. I mean, maybe to show how animalistic Eddie is being, the male dog wanted the female, so he took her, but in actuality, the female dog allowed him to. I mean, just like with people, that's how it works, So I don't know what the reasoning behind it is, but it is unsettling, so I mean, maybe it's simple and that's the reason, just to be unsettling. And that's why Orville talking to Eddie was the turning point. Once he got in his head that Liz was into him, I mean, that was it. It was going to happen one way or another, in his mind. Cut to Bertha telling Liz,
It ain't no rape. On your own cabin.
well, we can see why Bertha didn't become a lawyer. Liz tells Bertha she doesn't want Eddie, and Bertha tells her,
He's all that I got.
and then follows it up with,
If push comes to shove, stand up in any courtroom, and I'll say how innocent poor little Eddie is.
She also reminds Liz of what kind of stories the newspapers might make out of what happened, and how it would be Liz's word against theirs. She tells Liz that she'll understand one day once her fame is gone and she doesn't look so good anymore. Now, I don't think Liz is attractive, but I get the idea behind her words. Bertha tells her to leave when we get a voiceover by Liz.
My God, I don't believe this is happening.
Which is weird, because it's the only time they do it, so it's definitely out of place. Then Eddie shows up in a pretty cool shot. And it is interesting because usually good guys wear white in movies. He takes her for a ride where she starts to consider her options. They end up at this place, and I'm not sure why this is in here. I mean, except to show that Eddie seems to think that they're a couple now, and that she's just playing hard to get. I mean, the smile kind of says it all for me. He asks her to take some photos of him for his publicity stuff. She agrees, and I will say that I can definitely picture these on the cover of a 70s record. As this is happening, we see what Liz is thinking about. Now that would probably be more fitting as a metal band's record cover. Cut to Eddie walking in shirtless and Bertha pointing out,
Eddie knows a lot about poontang, don't know nothing about women.
which Eddie doesn't appreciate. This shows what we already know, that their relationship is pretty dysfunctional. Eddie goes out hunting and Liz takes the opportunity to ask Bertha for help. As this is happening, we see this guy eating, and I think it's supposed to make him look disgusting, which helps in the next scene. Bertha arranges for this guy to give Liz a ride, and he takes them to
The old groany. Cause the gals that come down here, they just groans and moans in ecstasy.
When she asks what he's doing, he says,
I don't get paid in advance. I'm liable to lose my draws.
He says he gets what he wants, she gets what she wants, and then this happens. As Liz is doing that, we see that they're not alone in a pretty creepy shot. Then we see this, and I'm not sure what happened to the older guy because they don't show it, but I doubt Eddie just let him go. Cut to Bertha telling Kino that she's going to sell this place and buy a club for her and Eddie, when Eddie walks in like Kino didn't have to hold him back the last time they were together. Bertha tells Eddie that she got rid of Liz, and Eddie says,
Oh, you didn't? She decided to come back.
then he tells her that they're going to have a party. Bertha makes sure that everything is alright between her and Eddie, and then goes to get changed. We see Liz taking off in Eddie's Jeep and Kino watching her leave. As Liz is driving away, the cops end up behind her, and I will say it is a neat shot. We see that she's been detained and brought to the sheriff. She tells him that she wants to press charges against Eddie for
assault, theft for auto, kidnapping, and rape.
Orville starts taking his report and gets distracted.
Would you like to suck on, tomato?
And I gotta say, Pickens does play this part very, very well here.
Sure is a good tomato.
He tells her that he has to ask her questions about the rape, when we see that he's very meticulous with his case notes. He continues to be very professional,
Did he bite you on the titties?
before asking if Eddie tried to warm her up first,
Be the only decent thing to do.
to figure out how brutal the rape was. He also asks her how many times it happened, and when she says it happened again that afternoon, Orville says,
Hot doggies, I can't say it's a blaming.
which is exactly what you want to hear from the person in authority to say. He says to get a warrant for Eddie that they have to go see the JP, so they leave. Cut to the bar where Eddie and Bertha are having their party when Orville and Liz walk in, and Liz gets a less than warm welcome. Eddie sees that Liz is there and gets pissed. Orville and the JP, or Justice of the Peace, come over. By the way, he's played by Dub Taylor, who has 262 acting credits, including The Wild Bunch. Eddie denies the rape, and Orville suggests that they hold the hearing right then. You know, in a bar, in front of a huge group of people. Liz says that she doesn't consent to this hearing, and Orville says they need to look at the evidence. The JP asks how they can settle it, and Orville says,
Well, she did say that he bit her on the titty.
then forces her on top of a table. And this is a great scene in a horrifying way. I mean, obviously this would be one of the worst ways a rape accusation could go. You know, she's been raped and beaten, and now being publicly humiliated. I mean, it's awful, and that's why it's great in this movie. The JP rips her shirt open.
Jesus. That's a fine piece of evidence.
Eddie freaks out and then gets bum rushed by this guy. And I somehow don't think this was rehearsed much, because I'm pretty sure the stunt guy isn't supposed to basically land on his neck. We also get shots of Kino and his dog mixed in with Liz screaming. We see that Liz's car is working again, and Eddie's figured out that Kino gave Liz the keys to the Jeep. Cut to the next morning, where Eddie has made rabbit stew for everyone as a way to apologize. We see that Bertha also has a black eye. He says that he's been thinking about their future when Liz finds a dog collar in the stew, before we see it's Kino's dog as Eddie proceeds to beat the hell out of Kino. Then we get a shot that is as disturbing as it is confusing. I mean, I'll admit that I don't know what's going on. I don't know the point that it's supposed to make, and I don't like admitting that. Cut to Eddie going into Bertha's room and telling her to clean up the dining room because he's invited most of the town for dinner. He then asks where her wedding dress is. So, you ready to feel sad? Because you might feel a little sad in a minute here. Bertha starts to break down out of happiness and gets very, very excited and says that she's not sure that the dress will still fit anymore. And then Eddie tells her that the dress isn't for her, and
They're gonna marry some dumb old broad like you.
when he leaves, they really drive home the fact of how alone Bertha is. And again, Winters does a very good job here. Eddie then goes and tells Liz that they're going to get married, to which Liz just stonewalls him. I mean, I guess at this point she's been broken down and doesn't even try to fight it anymore. He says them getting married will fix things between them and make her decent again. He also adds in,
You're gonna do what I say. You understand?
and I do appreciate the music they play here. I think it's a fiddle that they put over the Here Comes the Bride song. Cut to the dining room where Orville and the JP are drinking and small talking, and we get a nice southern joke from the JP.
Yankees, they're just like hemorrhoids. Well, if they come down and go back, that's all right. But if they come down and stay down, they're a pain in the ass.
And Orville responds with,
The way things is going, one of these days, the only kind of people we're going to have around here is high yellers.
and this was a new term for me actually, so I had to look this one up too. High yellow, or as Orville says it, high yeller, refers to a light-skinned African American, generally with white and black ancestry. You know, you learn something new every day. Eddie and Liz come in, and okay, now it's very clear that Liz has given up all hope. Orville apologizes for last night, and Eddie goes to change his clothes, and when he walks through the kitchen, he gets attacked by Keno, who proceeds to strangle him. Eddie ends up grabbing a knife and stabbing Keno multiple times, and I feel like Liz and the singer of the band are equally as excited to be there. Also, I do think Taylor does a great job as the JP.
Ain't y'all just glad you came?
Eddie comes in dressed to the nines, and we see that Orville is tanked. They proceed to start the ceremony.
Well, I guess y'all know why we gathered here.
When Bertha shows up dressed for a wedding and tells everybody to leave, which indicates that clearly she is fully unhinged now too. They also interlace shots of dead animals. Again, I don't know the reason for that. I wish I did though. Then Keno comes in with a shotgun and shoots Eddie, and the sound adds to the psychotic feel of the scene. Keno also shoots this other random guy just standing there, which does seem out of character for Keno, you know, since he's kind of been the good guy throughout the whole film. Maybe it's showing that nobody gets out of this place a good person. Or maybe not, I don't know, you know, maybe he just has bloodlust now. Who knows? Then drunk Orville goes to shoot Keno, but ends up shooting the JP instead. But he doesn't miss a beat and shoots again, this time hitting Keno. And again, the sound makes this very unnerving. Before going down, Keno shoots Orville, so Orville, the JP, and Keno are dead. Oh, and that other random guy. After Keno dies, Liz picks up the shotgun and finally puts an end to Eddie's delusion. So this definitely adds a whole new definition to the term shotgun wedding. The movie ends with Liz shooting her reflection in a mirror. And now for some fun facts. This took 6 weeks to film. This is an interesting film because there is more than one version and it has gone under several different titles. So this ran at grindhouse theaters and drive-ins for quite a while, so to appeal to different people, they actually ran it under different titles. I mean, obviously Poor Pretty Eddie, but then there is also Black Vengeance, Redneck County Rape, and Heartbreak Motel. And what's interesting about the last one is that it's actually quite different from the others. I mean, it's basically a different movie. It has Eddie doing voiceover narration, and it cuts out a lot of the action scenes and most of the rape scenes out, and replaces it with dialogue. And instead of him dying at the end, Eddie actually gets a record deal and moves to Nashville. So not even close to the same plot. This movie made me sad. So, would I recommend Poor Pretty Eddie?
No, I'm fine.
I don't know, I mean, it is pretty well acted for the most part. I mean, Winters especially does a great job of being desperate and pathetic. They do a good job of portraying this messed up world that these people are living in and them not realizing it's messed up. Well, except for Liz. I mean, I would say if you're into this genre of horror movie, then you probably should check it out. This one isn't really my style, so I didn't really like it that much, but there are elements I can definitely appreciate about it. If you do want to check it out, I'll put a link in the description where you can check it out for free, at least at the time I recorded this. Let me know in the comments if you've seen this and if you liked it or not. In my last video, I looked at Sleep Stalker, so I'll put a link up here so you can check that out too. Alright, well, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.